everyone, and welcome. My name is John Doehring, and this is ZoomTRAK. Good afternoon, N-scalers everywhere, and welcome to the May 2024 edition of ZoomTRAK by NRail. NRail is the organization promoting N-scale model railroading, including modular modeling in NTRaK and TTRAK and FreeMo-N, home and club layouts, and indeed all of N-scale modeling. NRail is focused on sharing the knowledge and camaraderie and joy of model railroading, and of course, all of it in the normal scale. So welcome. Again, we've got a full lineup this afternoon to share with you, and today that includes a short kickoff video from the Belmont Shores Model Railroad Club. Then on the NTRaK side, our very own Steve Gillett will present the ultimate freight yard in N-scale. And we'll end with Jack Olivieri presenting on model railroad scenery lighting. As always, we'll have a poll at the end, so stay till the end. And now let's get started with that kickoff video from Belmont Shores.
From the shores of Belmont to the mountain ranges of Tehachapi and the rustic farmlands of the San Joaquin Valley, join us as we explore the remarkable landscape, design, and history of the Belmont Shore Model Railroad. Originating in 1971, a small group of modelers gathered in the Belmont Shore Library with the intent to form the country's first N-scale model railroad club. After a few switches, twists, and turns, some 50-plus years later, the Belmont Shore Model Railroad now resides within the beautiful Angels Gate Park in San Pedro, California. So sit back and enjoy as we take a brief introductory tour of this historic Model Railroad Club. As we arrive through Angels Gate Park and enter our humble pre-World War II Army barracks facility, members and visitors are greeted by some first-generation original NTRaK segments, which allow modelers to construct a small segment of track with scenery and connect their segment with other modelers' segments based on a few simple specifications. Visitors can also check out our Railroad Museum, which highlights some of the extensive and celebrated railroad history of Southern California. Heading upstairs, you will find our spotlight attraction, the Belmont Shore Model Railroad Layout. At a fun-sized 160:1 scale ratio known n N-scale, the layout encompasses a 20-scale-mile round trip of mainline track, all within a 25 by 90-foot area. We'll head north on a brief trip throughout 1950s-era Southern California, departing the bustling Art Deco streets of Belmont, a city which is modeled on Los Angeles, passing through the station, oil industries, and rolling through agricultural industries, small towns, and the Tehachapi Pass. Eventually heading our way into the San Joaquin Valley and Bakersfield. Our trains will traverse the 30-plus minute trip before finally returning to the staging yard. The Belmont Shore Model Railroad truly is a robust, detailed world, all accessible within a few footsteps. Like any railroad, work and maintenance are necessary to make our journey on the Belmont Shore Model Railroad possible. The combined knowledge of the club members makes the layout reliable and always improving, including detailed work on the future port of Belmont. The public is invited to watch steam and modern diesel locomotives, freight and passenger trains come to life on Saturday afternoons, Tuesday nights, and select open house dates. The Belmont Shore Model Railroad Club is open to new members who can enjoy model railroading without spending time and funds for track, scenery, or electronics. Belmont Shore's members are ready and eager to help newcomers enjoy this dynamic and varied hobby. Whether you're an experienced modeler, an avid train fan, or just simply curious, all are welcome to visit us here at the Belmont Shore Model Railroad. Thank you for joining us on our introductory trip, and we hope you'll visit soon.
All right, that's super. I suspect lots and lots of people on the line know this, but for those of you who don't or watching later, you got a little quick view there right at the beginning of the very, very first ever NTRaK modules, which I believe go back all the way into the early to mid 70s. Wow, a little bit of history there for N-scalers. All right, next up, Steve, tell us a little bit about freight yards.
Several years ago, I wrote an article about operations, passenger car operations. And as part of doing that, I put together the ultimate passenger car yard where you could do pretty much everything you wanted to do on it and operate it. Well, after doing that, I got to thinking about freight operations, and I got to thinking that, you know, everybody needs a yard. Almost everybody wants a yard in their layout, but you're always restricted by space and area that you can have a yard, and you want other things to do too. But I got to thinking about what happens if you had a yard as your layout, the whole damn thing, and maybe had some industries around the edge of the yard like you usually do near yard areas. And I put together this thing in N-scale, and that's what I want to share with you today to let you see what this thing is. Now, I'm going to take this thing and cut this down to about smaller sharing size. You can see all the way across the bottom. You start over here on the right side, and you can see my pointer. This is where there's a 3.5 foot corner module right here where the turntable and roundhouse is. There's one 8 foot module here, number 2, an 8 foot module here, number 1, and then some ancillary modules on down this way. And as you go north, you'll see an 8 foot module there, and then another 8 foot module there as the yard into the yard is at that end of the yard, and then you go into other things. So I'm going to kind of run this through with you so you can see what you can do. Unless I've forgotten something, which would never happen because I never forget a thing except whoever I'm talking to's first name. I'll have everything that you could possibly want. The only thing that's missing is the hump and retarders. I didn't put that in there because this is all nice and flat, easy to do on 8 foot modules. So with that, I want to talk about the 5 yard. This 5 module set, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is 19.5 feet long and 19.5 feet tall. And it contains 5 modules. You notice it swells out from the standard 2x8 here at the left end. It cuts back into the inside a little bit, and it cuts out 6 inches. It cuts out 6 inches in the front. So these 2 modules here are 6 foot deep. I'm sorry, 3 foot deep. They're 6 inches deep on each side. And on the right here, only the front juts out 6 inches. So these are 2.5 foot deep. Then all these things, to get as much in here, I've scooted the red and the yellow and the blue lines out toward the front. So they're only about a couple inches from the front of the module. And then back here at the far left, you have a transition module back to NTRaK standards if you want it, or you can build a layout any way you want to. And it doesn't even have to go out very far. It's just whatever you want to do. The key is these 5 modules here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that make the yard itself. Now, the key thing in the yard, the first thing you do in the yard is you're going to have tracks, and this thing has 6 tracks in it. And it's got 2 main lines, 3 main lines. You'll see a red and yellow line running around the outside. And then this light blue is the blue line that diverges and comes across the back. And in fact, is a branch line. And you'll notice that most all these industries, these brown things all along here and up here, are all served off this branch line. So you have a true operations area here with a branch line yard and a spare yard. Now I'll talk about those here in a minute. There is a drill track, which you see is this green line around here and on up here at the top. that is your drill track. In this case, I've got about the main line is the main yard tracks are about 24 feet long, which gets you a pretty good sized train. And so theoretically, you should have about a 24-foot drill track. We're short a little bit, but that's why I've got this module 8 in here, and there's another module at the top to add link to the drill track and also give more industries so you can switch those. The yard can be accessed by both these main tracks. I'm going to blow this up here a little bit so you can see what we're doing here. And I'll swing this over here in case you've got people's faces on the right. You'll see that the main track can come up here and go up here to the drill track, or it can come directly in here, cut across to these brown tracks with the arrival tracks, and you can go to either one of them to bring your train into the yard. And then on each end, you have this, it's a bifurcated yard. You've got a ladder on this end and an equal same ladder at the other end that I'll flash up there in a little bit. You also have a scale here, and you have a tower at this end, and you have caboose tracks. So you can pull into the yard, drop your train, the engines, and they come back here to this orange area right here. If you, again, can you all see the my cursor moving around in this thing?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is the freight, the engine yard right here, and you've got a 120 inch turntable, and it has a 16 stall roundhouse. So this is overkill, I know. It's got, but that was the concept here, to put every possible thing you could into this thing. So you've got steam ready tracks up here. You've got diesel tracks down here. You've got a small diesel shop. This is designed for about 1960, which was toward the end of the transition era. So some of them, they would use some of the roundhouse tracks for steam, but it doesn't matter. It's here for whatever you want. There's a fab shop up here. There's a shop here in this brown or this gray area here are your servicing tracks for water, sand, ash, coal, and diesel, and fuel tanks up here, water tanks here, all the things you need for the yard area. There's a wash track down here. All that's there. The other thing that you don't find in a lot of yards is you see the regular structure. There's even an employee parking lot here, crew barracks, yard office, and then there's all the service tracks that go with it. Over here in this area here where I'm circling, and you've got icing track. Now, by 1960, there weren't a lot of ice reefers, but it's still in place and it can be used. It has room for something like 20 or more ice reefers. There's a huge dock here, team track with docks for both tracks and ramps to get things on and off. Switch engines are kept back here. By the way, the switch engine for the drill side is right here next to the tower, and there's a track for the trim engine up at the other end of the yard. I'll just pull over here and we'll take a look at that for a second. This is the other end of the yard. Can you see that all right with people's pictures in the way, or can you see that whole thing?
We can see okay.
Okay, so there's the same thing. There's your bifurcated yard, your tracks for the caboose, the drill track coming in here. Whoops, I clicked something there. Let me undo that. Okay, so that's that end, and it's the mirror image of this end down here. The other thing this has, and it also has the freight house over here in the far left. with a couple of tracks there and a place for all the semi tractors, trailers to load and unload. Then there is, besides all this area here with the parts warehouse, the car shop, clean out track, rip tracks, this other service area is right in here. There is a yard for the blue line, which comes back here. That's these red tracks back here. And there are 3 tracks there where you can sort cars, place to bring cars from the main yard that go to local industries. They come up here. And there is also this light green area is empty car storage. So when you have cars that don't have a car park for them, they're sitting back here blank. When you have a demand from an industry, you can find cars that you need that fit the bill and then get them moved over into the yard and sent out to the industry requirement. So all those features should cover most everything. You've got a drill track for the branch line, this red line. The other thing you'll notice is this dark blue line that you see coming along just above the drill track here at the bottom left. You see it angling up through the yard, coming across the bottom. Over here on the side is the wreck and NRail train storage facilities right next to that. This thing comes up past this yard, and then it swings up using either the main track or the drill track, and then comes on, cuts back through these industries, and then cuts back here. It goes all up parallel to the yard tracks and swings back around here past the engine shop. So everything can be linked. These heavy lines ideally are never have cars or anything stored on them. They're the transportation vehicle to get anything anywhere in this yard. So given all that, the next part is to try and figure out how to make this operational. So you look at all this stuff, like I said, it's in this thickest part right in here, it's 3 foot deep, but you can work from both sides. Obviously, you're going to have the first person you're going to have is the guy running the drill, who's going to be taking trains and drilling. You can do this from either end. I've set this up in my mind as drilling on this left side, where the train's pulled out on you pull your train out, and then you drill it to whatever you decide you want to define these tracks for westbound distant, westbound locals, eastbound distance, yard transfers, overflow, whatever you decide you want to have for these 6 yard tracks, and then you drill your train onto the cars and put them on the correct track. And when the engines are sent up here to the engine facility, and they're done. At the other end of the yard, let me swing up there, you got this same thing going up here, where you've got a drill track, and you've got your same bifurcated yard, and you can pull things off either of the brown lines, because they're both arrival departure tracks. You can call them whichever one you want, eastbound, westbound arrivals, or one for departures. You can have the guy up at this end who's doing your trim. He's going to be pulling cars. He can put them on one of these green tracks, or he can build the train on one of these brown tracks as a departure track and get it ready, get the caboose on it, have everything ready to go, and then when it's ready, tell the yard master and get the engine. So you got a trim guy on one end, you got a drill guy on the other. You got to have a guy, which I call the hostler, is the guy that takes these cars that have come in here that need work in the yard, that's going to take reefers to the icing station, take freight cars that need to go to that are destined for the freight house or for the team track to their positions and get them put they need to be. If they're a car that has a work order on it that's got problems, it can take it to the car shop and get it fixed. If it's a car that's needs to go up here to the local yard for the local industries. It can bring it up to this yard for it to do what it needs to do. So there are 3 jobs right there. Then up here at the north, up here in the blue line area, you've got to have somebody running this yard, getting things taken where they put where they need to go, and then you need a crew or a person or a crew of 2 to take trains, take these cars out with their local switch engine, and interface with all these industries. Now on the side that you're seeing, which is what I say the left or west side of the roundhouse, this example has 20 industries, 19 to 20, depending on what you want to do, come all the way down here to the end. Now I put on this extra 8-footer, which gives us 4 more industries, and it also gives us a longer drill track. Then out here at the end, there is another. I only did a 6-foot because that's all the room I had on this thing to do it. But this could be 6 or 8 foot. This gets you back to NRail standards. You notice the lines slide up a little bit to the 4, 5.5, and 7-inch marks, and it diverges the blue line to the back. And what the blue line here goes straight, it becomes that drill track. Plenty of industries, plenty of things to do, both sides. Some industries are single, some of them are double. There's a little bit of a switching puzzled in different places on these things, getting into and out of these industries, all kinds of industries that ends up requiring all kinds of rail cars. So it's kind of fun. On this side over here, as we go up, you see we even have I have Enos Slaughterhouse, old baseball buddy Enos Slaughter, if you can remember that far back. And you've got the livestock pens here where you can load and offload livestock, and industries going on up here. This is the extra 8-foot module that I had for this side to give us this. On this side, I've got 6 industries. And then up here, the transition module, going back to standard NRail, this is where I put a TOFC, COFC, which were just starting in the 60s, where you've got another industry there and room for a couple more industries. If you're trying to do this in a room, 19.5, 20 foot by 20 foot is awful huge, but this could also be done with a 4-foot corner rather than a 6 or an 8-foot straight. But it gives you, again, all sorts of things you can do with these yards to give you an operating plan. So this thing is going to be put on the tips and techniques, or somewhere it's going to end up on our NRail website. Once I get this wrapped up, I'll get it to it and it'll be posted on there for you to use. One thing I do need to tell you is this is all drawn in Excel, and Excel is kind of a little funny. If you notice, let me go down here. If I change the scale from 40 to 50%, notice how that turntable gets out of square. It turns oblong. Excel does not treat rows and columns the same way. And so you have to be careful when you zoom this in or out. Shrink it to 20 or 40 or 60 or 80%, you're okay. What the percentages are depends on how many pixels you have in each row and column. And on this particular layout, it's in scale at every 20%. You have a different, if you're doing this and doing your own thing, and you're not, these are using 20 pixels per square to give you your grid, your rectangular grid. If you use something else, these percentages change. So you just need to be aware that if you zoom in and out, if you zoom in the wrong percentages, this thing gets distorted. So with that, are there any questions that I can answer about this?
Steve, I have one on the yard tracks. What how close are those to one another? What are the
Okay.
centers?
The red and yellow tracks are standard 1.5 inches apart, and they're 1.5 inches from this arrival track. All the rest of the tracks in this entire layout are 1.25 inches, and they
Okay.
work fine in N scale. Everything fits in there, even 6 and 8 foot car. 6 and 8 foot. 80 and 90 foot cars will make these corners. Everything is designed using Pico number 6 turnouts.
Okay.
Number 8's a little too long and it squashes it. But 6 work. I've done lots of yards with number 6 turnouts in the yard, and they work just fine.
So this looks to me like the question I have is this sort of a modular, is this an idea for a modular home layout, or would you actually build a transportable NRail modular layout that had 8-foot modules?
Well, yeah, I do. My club, we started building 8-foot modules because we haul all of our stuff around in one of these budget 24-foot truck in cabinets. And we found if we have one 8-footer, they're lightweight anyway, and takes half as much setup time. You set up one module instead of 2. But yeah, this is designed to probably be semi-permanent, I would think.
Right.
There's if you notice right here, there's no overlap with stuff here at any of these break points. As you look this way, you see it's clear breaks, so they separate. The only place where there's a problem is right here. You've got to have a removable diesel shop, and you've got a spot right here where there is a turnout right in the way, which this could be moved up here a little farther if you wanted to. But generally, and right here, this could be moved a little bit. But it's generally designed, you put it and you leave it there.
Right.
There's nothing to say this has to be in 90 degrees here. I did it just so, because it worked well with this roundhouse to fill in, use most of the space. But this could double back on itself. This top end could have another 90-degree corner, and it couldn't come back in itself. The thing of it is, these yard jobs in the blue yard and all this stuff up here would be work from this side. This design for this little strip along here, this 16-foot strip would have a short skyboard to block the backs of these buildings and protect them from sleeves or elbows or arms. But you can still get in here to work and do all your coupling and uncoupling here. And this guy working all this stuff in here can work from either side. Guy or gal can work either side. And the same in here for this hostler, and also if you have a rim guy. Anyway, bottom line is you can have, with a 2-man crew, here, a guy here, 3 out here, a guy here, a gal here. You can have 8 to 11 operators on this thing, or as little as 4 or 5, and still work.
Well, you certainly got a whole lot of stuff going on in there. That's for sure. That's impressive.
Well, the idea is this is everything. Nobody can, most people are not going to do it all, but you can take this and pick and choose what you want.
Right.
Like I said, I think I've got everything but the kitchen sink being the hump and the retarders. But this gives you everything else. Pick and choose, see what you like. Here's a way it can fit together, and then take this and make and design what works for you, for what you need, whether it's for your home layout or for a club layout or whatever.
That's fantastic. Anybody else have a question? Looking to see.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just how complicated is it to wire this?
It's pretty simple. Now, it doesn't matter. You can block this any way you want. I would block the red area and block this area and then have a spatial area for this. You can do this DC or DCC. You block it the same way. And the difference is, I would assume if you're doing something this big, you'd probably use DCC anyway. It's not a big deal. You can gap this wherever you want. I didn't get into it, but it's pretty simple.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Steve.
All right. You all have a good day.
You got give us a lot here. Oh, let's see. I have one question. It says, can I ask what a drill track is? I'm from the UK and haven't heard of this before. Jonathan, thanks for pointing that out. You want to, yeah.
The drill track is a track where you pull a train out. And if you look right here on the left, this is a track that goes way back over here. Gives you can pull your train out and then you start shoving cars. And you're going to have your car cards, you're going to have a switch list. And you look at the back car on that thing and you say, where is it going? Track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And then you send that car to that track. These could be towns it's going to. It could be just, is it eastbound or is it going eastbound or westbound? Or it's going,
Right.
you know, and it depends on how you design your yard, where you're going to be and where you want cars to go. But then each car card is going to be told, is it going to local industries in, this is my thing that's called, this is Micropolis. It's if it's going to go to Micropolis, then you put it on a track that it can send it back here. Say track 1 is for transfers is to local track or thing. And so you start shoving these cars into where they go. And the car cards will go, if you use car cards, they'll go in a box for that track. And then the other guy on the other end, he's going to be building a train for outbound. He's going to have to get the cars from where they are. And he's going to have to stack them up on the departure track, one of these brown tracks, to build the train.
All righty.
Steve, if you look in the in the chat, you'll notice the term is head shunt for those who are across the pond.
Gordy has translated that in the UK for everyone here.
Yeah. Okay. Razor.
Yes.
Do we have time for me to show you something? I've been working.
We don't.
Well, you do or don't?
We don't right now because we've got another presentation we have to go to.
Got it. Okay.
Maybe at the end.
Well, I'm leaving. I've got to leave early. My wife has told me I have things I have to do. So I'll be around for about another 30 minutes and then I'll have to leave.
I have a T-track yard I'd like to show, but
we need to get you on the program then. All right. Thank you very much, Razor. We really appreciate it. Let's move on to our third presentation here, which is Jack Olivieri is going to talk to us about scenery lighting. So it's all yours, Jack.
Thanks for inviting me. My name is Jack Olivieri, and let me bring up my presentation here. So this is the topic for this is my design guide for scenery lighting. It's about layout lighting, and I'm going to go through the different slides. If you have any questions while I'm on a particular slide, please speak up, and then I'll ask also at the end for questions if you have any.
Yeah. Don't forget to use the chat too, folks.
Okay, my first slide, let's get by this. This is my shameless promotion. A lot of the concepts in this presentation are based on, let's get by this. Most of these concepts in lighting ideas are from my book that I wrote about a year and a half ago. And it's on Amazon. And I'll be talking in general about some of what's in the book. There's a lot more detail, obviously, in the book. The first thing I wanted to talk about is overall layout lighting. I have come to the conclusion that it's really good to have three different sets of lighting on the layout. This is my layout. It's an N-scale layout. In the foreground here, you can see the yards, and in the background, there's some buildings I'll show you later, and a town. I've had two sets of lights to start off with here. I have warm white LED floodlights, and I also have cool white LED tubes to replace the fluorescent lights I had before. And they really give two different sets of atmospheres to the layout. The warm white LED floodlights I have on a dimmer, so you can make it look like sunset or sunrise or completely dark. The cool white LED tubes I have more for operating sessions and when I'm working on the layout and I need a lot of light because I'm looking at small spaces under a magnifying glass or something like that. So that's my general overall lighting strategy for the layout. I also wanted to have the opportunity to have a dimmer circuit for buildings and other scenery in the layout. And I looked at the ones that were on the market, and I wasn't really crazy about them because they were kind of expensive. They were low density. By that I mean it was like 4 channels or 4 LEDs or pairs of LEDs. And you had to add a lot of other accessories for them to work, like a power supply or a power connector. You needed to buy a special switch, and so on and so forth. So I decided to kind of roll my own here, and this is the progression of my dimmer switch project. I started off with five channels here, and I plugged it into the layout. And this was a transistor arrangement where the transistors controlled the LEDs and dimmed them. And then I thought, might be a simpler way. So I started using resistors and potentiometers, which you see here. And I breadboarded it on a piece of perf board. And then I decided to increase the density to like 14 and use JST plugs, which is used by the Just Plug buildings. I have a lot of Just Plug buildings and different things that use the Just Plug system. So finally, I came to this. I designed a board and I put together some components. And this particular board that I designed has 10 channels. And it's very inexpensive. It's easy to scale. And it has a bunch of characteristics. It has this power LED here. It also has a power for additional boards. So what that means is these 2 plugs here can be used to daisy chain other boards. So you don't have to plug a power cord into each one of the boards. They'll daisy chain together. Recommended power supply. The power supplies I've been using are from 16 to 19.5 volt power supplies. Why 19.5? These are standard off-the-shelf power supplies that cost about 10 to 12 bucks. You can get them online or Amazon. And a 1 amp laptop power supply in this range, either 16 or 19.5, is good for 50 channels. And you can stack 5 of these boards together without any trouble. The characteristics of the board are no resistor needed for Just Plug buildings. No resistor is needed for recommended LEDs in the design guidebook. No resistor is needed for any LED with an onboard resistor. The only time you need a resistor is when you are trying to drive a single LED by itself that doesn't already have a resistor. Then you need to add an additional resistor. When you stack the board, you stack them vertically. And as I mentioned, you have 10 channels. I have boards available. I've been selling a bunch of boards online. This is the layout of the circuit. And the only difference here is I put a switch here. Instead of turning off the AC power, I put an off the board switch, which you can turn on the board or turn it off. Or if you want to use the AC power, you can just short out these 2 pads. Okay, building lighting. What have I done for building lighting? Well, the one on the left here is a resin building I put together. I bought at a train show. And I've kind of standardized on 2 different types of LEDs. One is a single LED, which you see here, and it has an onboard resistor, surface mount resistor. And then the other one is a 3 LED strip you can see here. And I list the part numbers of those, and those are kind of for building purposes, those are the pretty much ones I've standardized on. You notice here too, just my personal preference, I block out the second floor windows. This is a mixed use building, so there's a business down below and then there's residential above it. So what does this look like? Well, in the day with the lights on, the town looks like this. This is my my town. As I said, most of these are Just Plug buildings I bought. Some of them I have put together. Over here is a building I put together. I named it after my grandson. Some of these I did some modifications to. At night, the town looks like this. Each one of these buildings can be individually dimmed. Some of them, like this one here, are shut off. This one here is typically too bright, so I always dim that one. This one I turn off occasionally. The dimmer circuit works down to 0 volts, so it'll let you turn them completely off. I don't use the dimmer circuit on the street lights. I just have one standard. I could, but I just use one standard light there. Okay, this is how I lit up my antenna tower. This is a commercial unit which worked pretty well for me. It requires 16 volts AC or DC. You can do 3 different sequences. That means you can have the top one dim and brighten, and the flashing like I have here in the video. You can drive 3 different separate outputs. You can have different colored LEDs. No external resistors are needed, and each LED can be any color. When you shut it off, it remembers the sequence that you had before. You could have it, instead of flashing, you could have it sequentially go up the tower. Price is about 17 bucks for a kit. I bought the assembled version for 30 bucks. And it's a pretty small circuit board. I have it cut out. I cut out my foam that's underneath the mountain here. The mountain's made of foam. And I glued it underneath the mountain. And so the wires go up one leg of the tower here. Okay, another thing for lighting is I have a bunch of yards and sidings, as you can see here. And this turns the yards and sidings on and off. And the reason for that is that I found that when the power is on, locomotives make noise. I got to shut off the locomotive, especially when I have a big yard. It makes a racket. So sometimes I want to completely shut down the power to the yards and the sidings. And over here, I have the program switch, which is the programming track. It can be either connected to the main line, can be off, or it can be hooked up to the program terminals on the command station. So why do I use that? Well, what I use a lot is lighted bumpers. These are bicolor LEDs. And what I do is I take out the flag in the bumper, this kind of bumper, drill a hole, and I put in a bicolor LED. And when these switches are thrown, it lets me know if the track is live, which is green, or it's dead, which is red. So it completely turns off the track. There's also something that they call a tricolor track bumper. And I did the same thing, but I put the tricolor in there. And what that does is that when the switch is in the middle, there's no connection to it. When it's green, it's connected to the main line like it is now. And when it's blue, it's connected to the program track, so it's good for programming. So by doing this, I can look at the bumper, the track bumper, and immediately tell me if it's dead, if it's connected to the main line, or it's connected to the command station and ready for programming. Okay, another circuit I use, or concept I use, is random light circuits for buildings. And obviously these can be put in different buildings and make it look like there's occupancy in there. This particular circuit is made by East Coast Circuits, and it's powered from AC or DC, 9 to 12 volts. It mentions that it's pretty particular about the voltage. You can't go over 12 volts. It says it operates, it takes 100 milliamps, but I did some testing on it for LEDs. It takes far less than that, if my ammeter is any good. It has 6 LEDs. They randomly come on and off. It handles multiple LEDs, and it's only for use for LEDs, not grain of wheat or incandescent bulbs. Has a 3-volt output. Now, on this, by the way, is 8 times normal speed. It's actually 10 minutes elapsed. The average time between a change in the LED turning on and off are 20 to 30 seconds. The downside, there's no speed adjustment. You're kind of stuck with the speed that it turns on and off. And one of the boards I bought at the train show here, the list price is about 25 bucks. I got it for about $16. But one of the disadvantages was one of them I got was broken. It didn't, one of the lights was stuck on and another one didn't work. But the good news is they're located in Rhode Island. I called them up, sent it back. 2 days later, they had it fixed. They repaired it, sent it back to me within like 2 days. I couldn't believe how fast I got it back. So they were very good about that. And I was happy that, I got the service. So I got it back working and everything was fine. Let's see. That's about it for this. Now, if you want to make your own random generator, you can do what's called a ring counter, or sometimes they call it an LED chaser. This particular one is a circuit that's in the book, and it might not look like it's random because it really isn't. But if you have 2 or 3 of them and you hooked each LED was in a different building or a different room, and you had 20 LEDs or more, they would look pretty random. You can adjust the speed of this with this, so that's an advantage. They're pretty simple to make. They're pretty easy to operate. And I'm in the process of designing a 30 LED one, 30 channels that you can put in 30 different rooms or 30 different buildings, whatever you want to do, and adjust them so the speed between them could also be different. So it would look really random if you have 30 of them going like this. And that's kind of what I'm working on right now. Okay, electroluminescent signs. I have several of these. This is on my Continental Baking Company, by the way, which is was the original baker of Wonder Bread and Twinkies, which was later bought out by Hostess. And they use, this is made by Miller. Miller makes like the largest manufacturer of these signs. They call them neon signs, but because they look like neon signs, but they're really electroluminescent. They run off 4.5 volts, 3 AAA batteries, but you can buy a converter module to use them from a power pack that runs 12 volts, or you can even run them off track power. The only problem with that is if the track is dead, then your lights go dead, your signs go dead too. But they work pretty well, and they're easy to hook up and configure. And they have several different modes or configurations too. You can have them go serially or flash back and forth, and I'm sure everybody's seen these. I got this one, I think, at the Amherst Train Show. Okay, crossing signal. This is a crossing signal circuit. It's pretty standard. It's in the book too. And this is a circuit board I made up with the crossing signal. The advantage of this is you can make it adjustable. This particular circuit board I designed has 2 circuits on one board. And the one on the left you can see is more like a crossing signal flasher, relatively slow. The one on the right is much faster. I set it for a much faster speed. And that could be an ambulance on the layout, or a vehicle of fire engine or something like that, where you want a much faster blinking. And you can also, it can also be triggered by many other things in the layout. Okay, becoming more advanced, moving right along, there are many decoders and that are programmable. And they use DCC. This is one example. It's made by NCE. It's called a lighted decoder. And it can be programmed to an accessory address, such as if you were programming a turnout. Same idea. They have 3 LEDs, so it has the LED of 3 capability LEDs. And they all can have different lighting effects, and I'll show you that in a minute. Except on DC, they all have to have the same lighting effect. They're all can be controlled simultaneous with open and thrown commands, just like you would open and throw a turnout. Brightness of each output is individually programmable. You program this using CVs and use accessory ops mode or local ops mode to set the CV values. 3-pack is $25, but every time I go to the website, it seems to be sold out. So I would check out what's going on with that. These are kind of the special effects. There's 15 in accessory mode. And so you can see here, you can have a steady on, a flashing, a fluorescent flicker, more on than off, more off than on. When it starts up, or when it dies, it's a dying fluorescent. You can have railroad crossing signal phase A and B. So this can you can use this to control a crossover, as I showed you before. It has a rotary beacon, and it has random on and off times too. The other version of this they have, it's called an illuminated decoder, It's very similar to the lighted decoder, but it has plugs instead of solder connections. And this is $22 a piece. Again, this is sold out too. So again, I'm not sure what's going on with them, but every time I look, everything is sold out on their top product line. So if you're interested in this, I would check the reviews on YouTube, see what's going on there, and see if anybody's got any information, or call the company. I did try to Google it, and they said they're still in production. So, okay, another version of this by a different manufacturer is called the Analyte DCC decoder, and it's made by Rail Conductor. This product seems pretty good on paper. It's not just for lighting, but also can perform other tasks, like it can drive a crane or gantry movement, as well as water spouts and stuff like that. The nice thing I like about this is it can control 16 output terminals. And each terminal can be programmed for a different effect, including brightness and auto on and power up, and also all kinds of lighting effects. The one caveat on this that I would say is a lot of this connector here, the one I got, has push-in connectors. And I talked to the developer and the owner of the company, and he says he's going to make available some that are solder connections. Push-in connectors are not that reliable over time. So if you have a choice, get the ones that's pluggable. This is where you hook up the DCC and these connectors on the left, and the connector on the right is a source of 5 volts power out if you want to do something with that on the layout for some other accessory. So this is the type of special effects you can have. You can have a gas lantern or street light. That looks impressive. There's the simulations of most of these on the website. Lighthouse, welding torch, railroad crossings. The other thing that's a little unique about this is you can make this part of a theme for your whole layout. Like it can simulate sunlight and moonlight and sky blue sky, or white part of a skylight, sunlight sky. And you can even do a custom a special effect. So it's got quite a bit of versatility. The only problem I had with this is that I couldn't get it to work really well with I couldn't get it to work at all with special effects. And I have a DCS-52 Digitrax, and I talked to the developer again, and he claims it does work with Digitrax, but he only had a DCS-50. So we tried a bunch of things over 2 weeks, and I couldn't get it to work. And I'm going to ultimately send it back to him with a list of what I want for special effects, see if he can program it and bring it and send it back to me and see if it will work. I think it does work on NCE and other manufacturers' command stations. It just did not work on DCS-52. And what you do with this is you program it like a locomotive. You give it a number, so it can't conflict with an existing loco number. And then you put it on your track, and using the ops commands, you give each address, each one of those 16 terminals, a specific code for what you want the special effect to be on that terminal. So, for example, if you want to program terminal 1 to a gas lantern, you program CV252, and you give it the command, the CV number you put in that, the data you put in that CV number is for a gas lantern. And I think it's 1. So theoretically, it works pretty good. I was able to assign it a loco number of 5, but as I said, I could not get any of the special effects to work. Okay, that's about it. If you have any information, questions, I'll take them now. And if you want to know about availability of boards, I have a separate email for this. My name is not Tom, but I used to read Tom Swift books when I was a kid. And I keep it separate so it doesn't get jumbled in with my normal email address. So anybody have any questions that I can answer?
Excellent, Jack. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from anyone?
Yeah, have you spent much time checking out the Arduinos for your lighting control?
I did. I looked at Arduinos for My first dimmer. Are you talking about like for the dimmer?
Well, for just about anything, yeah, because I find that yeah, the pulse modulation gets you a greater, control width for dimming regular LEDs, but
I
also
did
for
look at that.
sequencing.
I did look at that, and I don't know, maybe it's me, but I kind of thought it was like using an elephant gun to kill a mosquito. Believe it or not, a lot of model railroaders don't have a lot of experience in electronics and engineering, like I do. But and I have a lot of people when I sell them the board, they give the boards, they call me back and they go, well, how do I solder this part onto this? Do you have instructions on how to put a resistor in a board or how to solder? Because I don't know anything about electronics, but I want to get this thing working. So I ended up having to come up with some very basic instructions on how to assemble a very simple, as you saw, PC board.
Yeah.
So I don't think they would be into programming an Arduino, or I don't think there would be. I think it would be much tougher for them to do that. Their main thrust of their hobby is modeling and railroading and stuff like that, and not the electronics. Anyway, that was my feeling on it. Anyway.
John,
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and launch the poll right now. We can continue with questions.
All right. While we're waiting for that to come up, Jack, I'll confess I'm that modeler you're talking about.
There
There's
we
no
go.
such thing as too simple for me. So when it comes
Yeah,
to electronics.
that's a lot, and I get that. That's why I kind of try to make everything simple.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I've even asked, I'm even thinking about selling just the assembled boards, and then I don't have to get. One person said, I can't get this to work. Can I send it back to you? I said, sure. So he sent it back to me. All the parts were in the right place, but the soldering was horrendous, and it was opens and shorts, and I fixed it and sent it back to him, but that was the only thing wrong with it. He just couldn't solder. So,
What's the name of your book?
Design Guide for Scenery Lighting.
I checked it out on Amazon while you were talking. And so
okay.
if you guys just go to Amazon and type in his name, you'll get that book and a couple of others that he's written as well. So
Could you give me your name again, please?
Yeah, Jack Olivieri.
Jack Olivieri. Thank you.
If you type in the name of the book too, it should get you there. Design Guide for Scenery Lighting.
Jack, can you put up that slide, that first slide, which had the information on it?
I can.
There we go. Thank you.
It's only in paperback. People ask me if I could do a Kindle version, and the answer is no. The schematics don't work. The graphics don't work. I tried it several times. It just doesn't come out on whatever Kindle format, whatever Amazon is using for Kindle format. It does not work for graphics and stuff like that. So I ended up doing this. I'm selling about, I'd say 20 to 50 books a month. Wow,
good for you.
Yeah, and it's been pretty popular, and it's gotten good ratings. It's been going pretty good. The boards I've had to keep buying some of those too. I've been selling a bunch of those, but I also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you're selling that many books a month, Jack, you're about to be an overnight success, a whole lifetime in the making here, right?
Oh, I don't think so. You don't make that much money.
I know, but we
on
appreciate the
books like
information
this.
for sure.
If you have a special, some people are selling thousands of books a month, and I'm happy to sell 20 to 50 depending on the month. And I probably sold a total of a couple of hundred, something like that.
All right. Any other questions?
John, somebody had a diagram for a T-track yard that they want to put up, and if they can send email to ZoomTRAK@nrail.org. We would love to have you tell us about your yard. So please contact us.
Yeah, please do. Whoever that was who said that, let's get you on the program and give you some time to share that with everyone.
Okay, what I'm actually doing is preparing a presentation for the Long Beach Convention, using ZoomTRAK for operations.
Fantastic.
And I've got designs for most of the things that you would do in operations, but adjusted to fit into standard ZoomTRAK modules.
Yeah. Well, Bob, I would, I think we'd love to see that. Especially if we give you a little bit more time. Why don't you get on the program? You can dry run your Long Beach program here on ZoomTRAK in another month or so.
I'd be glad to do that.
Fantastic. All right.
All right.
All right, everyone. Well, listen, I think we're at a little bit past the top of the hour, so it's Saturday. I'm sure there's other things that everybody wants to get off and do. Thank you for joining again. Keep coming back. This is a pretty loyal group, and we appreciate having you all here. So, bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Good program. Thank you. And the book's on order.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you from Wisconsin.